Welcome to the Agile Shop, where we talk shop about hands-on Agile solutions. In this video, we will talk about when to schedule your Agile Scrum ceremonies. If you just started in a new Agile team or you created a new Agile Scrum team, one of the things that you will need to take action on is scheduling your Agile Scrum ceremonies, also called Scrum events. In this video, we will cover three main things. 1. What Scrum ceremonies need to be scheduled during a sprint? 2. When to schedule your Agile Scrum ceremonies during a sprint, the most common two schedules with pros and cons for each, and our recommended Agile Scrum ceremony schedule that we use the most. What Scrum ceremonies need to be scheduled during a sprint? The Scrum ceremonies that should be part of every Scrum team are sprint planning, daily stand-ups, sprint review, which includes demo, sprint retrospective, and refinements. If you want to learn more about these Scrum ceremonies and how to facilitate them, make sure you subscribe to our channel to be notified when these videos will get released. Now, let's talk about when to schedule your Agile Scrum ceremonies during the sprint. For this video, we will assume a 2-week sprint. This means that all the ceremonies listed will need to fit within a 2-week timeline. As mentioned in this video earlier, we want to look at the most common two schedules. One that starts with the sprint planning at the beginning of the week as option 1, and the other one starting with the sprint planning midweek as option 2. We will highlight the pros and cons for each option as well. Let's start with the option 1 schedule, which starts at the beginning of the week. The sprint planning would be scheduled Monday, so the team can hit the ground running and start working towards the sprint. Usually, the sprint planning would be done first thing in the morning on Monday, so the team can start working towards the sprint itself right after lunch. Sprint review and demo should be one meeting in which the Scrum team talks about what was accomplished during the sprint and demo the work complete. The entire Scrum team and the main stakeholders are required to attend this session. This meeting is done at the end of the sprint. In this scenario, this event will be scheduled Friday. Sprint retrospective is done at the end of the sprint as well. This session normally is done after the sprint review session and before the sprint planning. The Scrum team gets together with our stakeholders and talks about what went well during the sprint and what should be improved. There are multiple ways to facilitate this session. With the option 1 schedule, this session is done Friday as well, at the end of the sprint. Daily stand-ups are pretty straightforward. This is done daily except the days when the sprint planning and sprint demos are occurring. They usually are not needed during those days. Backlog refinements. Even though we know that refinement sessions are no longer shown as an event in the Scrum Guide and is something that development teams should do as a natural part of development, I highly recommend for placeholder meetings to be scheduled on the calendar for the team. In the real world, most teams will not have a ready backlog to bring to their sprint planning without some dedicated sessions. My recommendation is one session a week, so the Scrum team can have 1 or 2 sprints worth of user stories refined and ready in the backlog. We went ahead and filled out the second sprint as an example, so you can see the flow of 2 sprints and how the ceremonies repeat. Let's review the upside and downside for this calendar option. The upside of option 1 is having the sprint planning on Monday starts the week fresh and provides a plan for the rest of the week. Ending the sprint on Friday with sprint demo and retro gets the team to feel a sense of accomplishment before the weekend and can be followed by some kind of celebration. Some teams go out after work on Friday at the end of the sprint and celebrate the finish of the sprint. This gets people to know each other more, creating a fun team atmosphere and culture. Another benefit is the weekend works as a break and rest between each sprint. The downside of option 1 is that holidays and people taking vacation tends to fall more on Monday and Fridays, which could lead to having to move the sprint planning or sprint review. In some corporations, Monday tends to be a busy day with other corporate events or meetings, which could result in low attendance during a sprint review or team members missing the sprint planning. Now, let's talk about the midweek schedule as option 2. This starts with sprint planning on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. For this example, we will go with Wednesday. The idea behind having a sprint planning midweek is to increase the Scrum team and stakeholders' attendance during the Agile Scrum ceremonies as mentioned earlier. With option 2 of the schedule, the sprint review and demo would be done on Tuesday. Sprint retrospective would be done Tuesday or Wednesday, but it has to be done between sprint review and sprint planning. In this case, my recommendation would be Tuesday. Some teams might load all 3 meetings in the same day on Wednesday, instead of spreading them over 2 days. Daily stand-up, same as before, daily. Refinement should be spread out once a week as mentioned before. As you can see the second sprint being populated as well, this option does look a little bit strange. Let's review the upside and downside for this calendar option. Upside of option 2 is not having to move ceremonies due to holidays on Monday and people taking days off on Friday. Potentially higher attendance by stakeholders during the sprint demos during midweek. The downside is there is no rest between the sprints. There is also an anti-pattern with the business week that starts on Monday. The back-to-back sprints with no break could start making the team feel like all the sprints are connected and not feel like different iterations. My recommendation of the 2 schedule options presented is option 1, with starting the sprint on Monday and ending the sprint on Friday with review and retrospective. I've seen this option to be the most successful due to the weekend working as a break and rest for the team. Finishing with review with demo on Friday motivates the team to finish the work by the end of the week. Friday also tends to be a good day to celebrate the finalization of a sprint with the team. If you want to know how long a ceremony should be scheduled for each session, subscribe to our channel to be notified when the next video gets released. Thank you for your time and have a great day.